It was a cool autumn evening when I decided to take my dog, Max, for a walk. The sun was casting long, eerie shadows through the trees. I had always enjoyed walking in the woods near my house. The forest was usually peaceful, and Max loved to explore the trails, his tail wagging with excitement. As we ventured deeper into the woods, the light began to fade. The leaves rustled softly underfoot, and the air grew colder. I tightened my grip on Max's leash, feeling a slight chill run down my spine. I glanced at my watch. It was getting late. We should probably head back soon. Suddenly, Max stopped and growled, his ears pricked forward. I peered into the darkness, straining to see what had caught his attention. There was a strange silence, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves. Then, from the distance, came a sound that made my blood run cold. A faint but unmistakable scream. "Hello?" I called out, my voice shaky. There was no answer. Max barked furiously, pulling on his leash. I hesitated, unsure whether to investigate or turn back. Curiosity and concern won over fear, and I decided to see if someone needed help. We followed the sound deeper into the woods. The trees seemed to close in around us, their branches like twisted skeletal fingers. The path grew narrower and more overgrown. My heart pounded in my chest, each step echoing in the silence. Then, through the dim light, I saw a figure stumbling through the trees. It was a man, dirty and disheveled, wearing what looked like a torn prison uniform. His eyes were wild, and he moved with a desperate urgency. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. The man looked up, his eyes locking onto mine. "Help me!" The man gasped, his voice raw and frantic. "They're after me." Before I could react, the man lunged forward, grabbing me by the shoulders. Max barked and snarled, straining against the leash. I tried to pull away, but the man's grip was like iron. I could smell his sour breath and see the fear in his eyes. "Please, you have to help me," he pleaded. "They're coming. They'll kill me." I finally managed to break free, stumbling back a few steps. "Who's coming?" I asked, my voice trembling. The man looked around wildly. "The guards. I escaped, but they're hunting me. They'll kill me if they find me." I felt a surge of panic. An escaped inmate, out here in the woods? I needed to get out of here, to get home to safety, but before I could act, the man suddenly stiffened, his eyes wide with terror. He turned and bolted into the trees, disappearing into the darkness. I stood there, frozen, as the reality of the situation sank in. I needed to get out of the woods, fast. I turned and started to run, Max at my side. The trees seemed to blur past us, the shadows twisting and turning in the corner of my vision. Then I heard it, the sound of footsteps behind me. Fast, heavy footsteps. Someone was chasing me. My heart pounded in my ears as I ran faster, my breath coming in ragged gasps. I could feel the presence behind me, gaining on me. "Tom!" a voice called out, but it wasn't the inmate's voice. It was cold, harsh, and full of malice. "You can't escape!" I didn't look back. I sprinted through the woods, branches slashing at my face and arms. I could see the edge of the forest ahead, a faint glimmer of light through the trees. I told myself, just a little further. Suddenly, I tripped over a root and fell hard to the ground, knocking the wind out of me. Max barked furiously, circling back to me. I struggled to get up, my limbs heavy with fear and exhaustion. The footsteps were closer now, almost upon me. I managed to get to my feet and stumbled forward, every step a battle. The light was closer now, the edge of the woods within reach. I could hear the footsteps right behind me, feel the presence closing in. With a final burst of energy, I broke through the tree line and into the open. I collapsed on the ground, gasping for breath. Max stood over me, barking at the darkness of the woods. I looked back, expecting to see the inmate or the unseen pursuer, but there was nothing. Just the silent, dark trees. I lay there for a moment, trying to calm my racing heart. Max nudged me with his nose, whining softly. I reached out and hugged my dog, grateful for his loyal presence. I got up slowly, looking back at the woods one last time. The forest was silent again, the shadows still and lifeless. I turned and walked home, Max by my side, vowing never to venture into the woods at night again. But as I walked away, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still watching me, lurking in the darkness, waiting for the next time I would return. I'd been on Tinder for a while, mostly for fun. His profile said he was 45, but he looked early 30s at most, looking for a sugar baby. $700 weekly, no sex. It sounded too good to be true. As a broke university student, I decided to take a chance. I swiped right, and Tinder told me it was a match. Seconds later, he messaged me. "Hey there, sweetheart. I hated the word sweetheart, but $700 was $700. Hey." I replied. His name was Jack. He said he owned a business, though he never said what kind. We chatted for a while before he asked for my Venmo to send the first payment. After a few minutes, I got a notification. I stared at the $700, waiting to wake up, but it was real. "You still there?" he messaged. "Sorry. If you don't mind me asking, what do you need me to do? Just a few favors for me." I felt a shiver. "The first thing is picking up a delivery for me. $700 for a package?" I was skeptical but intrigued. "From the post office or something?" "No. I'll send you the address, but not through Tinder. You got Kick? Or you can give me your number." I gave him my number, and he texted me an address immediately, followed by the address to his house where I'd drop off the package. I'm not home now, but there's a key under the blue flower pot near the door. Put the package on the coffee table in the living room. Lock the door when you enter, and lock it again when you leave. I grabbed my keys and wallet and headed to the address. As I backed out of the driveway, my phone buzzed again. I'm serious. Lock the door, both times. Please. The house looked abandoned. A broken chain-link fence and a small, barely hanging door stood out among nicer houses. "You here for Jack's stuff?" a man asked from the doorway. He was huge, with tattoos covering his torso. Yeah, I guess," I replied, not moving from the sidewalk. "Stay there," he said. He returned with a damp, stained shoebox-sized package. "Can you open your car?" he asked. I opened the trunk, not wanting it on my seats, and he set it in. "All right, there you go." "Thanks," I replied, walking around to the driver's side. "Oh, and one more thing," he said. I looked at him. "Watch out." I didn't reply. I blasted music on the way to Jack's house to drown out my anxiety. It didn't work. Jack's house was huge, with stone pillars and the greenest grass I'd ever seen. I turned off the car and got out, grabbing the package. The key was where he said it would be. I stepped in, closed the door, and hesitated before locking it. I walked inside, admiring the expensive furniture. I set the package on the coffee table and heard a phone ringing. My phone buzzed. "Don't answer any calls that aren't from Marvin." The ringing continued. I found the phone in an office. Incoming call from Jack. I didn't answer and left, locking the door behind me. I did more favors for Jack, like delivering cars and briefcases. Once he asked me to stay in his house overnight for $1,000. He left a list of rules on the dining room table. Lock the door when you come in. Only answer calls from Marvin. Don't turn on any faucets between 9 p.m. and 11 p.m. Don't open the door for anyone after 10 p.m. If the closet at the end of the hall is open, sleep in the library. If closed, sleep in any bedroom. Gardener comes at midnight. If he knocks on the windows, hide. Turn the TV on to static and let it play through the night. Do not forget to do this. I followed the rules, though I felt uneasy. 10:16 p.m. the doorbell rang. "It's the police. Open up." I stayed still. "Hello, it's the police. Open up or we're coming in." I heard my heartbeat in my ears. Silence followed. Then the doorbell rang again. "Hey, it's Jack! Let me in!" It sounded like Jack, but he would have a key. This continued for an hour before I fell asleep. In the morning, I heard someone in the kitchen. It was Jack making breakfast. He looked just like his pictures. "Scrambled eggs?" he asked, motioning to the pan. "Thanks," I replied nervously. "How was it?" he asked. "It was okay. Nothing super freaky happened," I replied. "Cool," he said. "I think I'm gonna go. I have class," I lied. He walked me to my car, staring as I left. At home, I unpacked and realized I still had the list. I had forgotten something. Turn the TV onto static through the night. Do not forget to do this. My phone buzzed. It was the $1,000 payment. A text from Jack followed. "I'm not in town right now, but you're free from errands until next week. Just sent the payment. Go do something fun." I reread the message. "I'm not in town right now. Who was in the house this morning?" My phone buzzed again, from an unknown number. Did you forget to do something?" Text was followed by a picture of Jack, or whoever this version of Jack was, standing in front of the TV. I didn't respond. Next came another picture. This one was of the outside of my house. It was followed by another text. "Watch out." Working the midnight shift at the gas station was always scary. Lights buzzed and flickered, casting long, creepy shadows. Outside, it was so dark you couldn't see a thing. I stood behind the counter, feeling a sense of dread creeping over me. Then I heard it, a scratching sound at the door. My heart raced as I looked outside, but there was nothing there. Just the empty parking lot, silent and eerie. I tried to focus on my work, stocking shelves and checking inventory, but every noise made me jump, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me. Suddenly, the lights went out. I was plunged into darkness, my heart pounding in my chest. I grabbed my phone for light and headed to the circuit breaker, but as I reached for the switch, I heard a growl, a deep, menacing sound that sent shivers down my spine. I flipped the switch, and the lights came back on, revealing a figure lurking in the shadows outside. They were big, and they looked dangerous. My stomach turned to ice as I realized they were staring right at me. I stumbled back, my hands shaking. But before I could do anything, they spoke, a voice filled with malice and hatred. "Help me!" I froze, unable to move as they disappeared into the night. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the sound of my own ragged breathing. I stood there, terrified, until the first light of dawn began to creep over the horizon. And as I looked out at the empty parking lot, I knew one thing for sure. Wasn't sure if I am too tired, or I am just delusional. I would never work the midnight shift at the gas station again. The memory of that night would haunt me forever.